Best Christmas Pageant Ever is based on one of the great books ever, and it tells the story of a family and a church and a community that are stuck in tradition and stuck in a certain way of seeing things, particularly the birth of Christ. So their annual Christmas pageant is a capturing of the Nativity in the most traditional way possible, and the kind of bright, clean, American version of a first century birth in Israel, which is just not accurate. Well, the pageant ends up getting taken over by this group of the quote unquote worst kids in the history of the world, the Herdmans, who are from the wrong side of the tracks. And they take over the pageant and take over all the main roles, and everyone is horrified and assumes it's going to be the worst Christmas pageant ever. And through their own unique perspective and the questions they ask and the impact that the pageant has on them, combined with the impact that they have on the pageant, ends up turning it into the best Christmas pageant ever. And it's warm and funny and emotional, but witty. It's one of my favorite stories I've ever come across. When I finished the book, I just said I was born to make this movie. I have so much experience with kids, not only my own, but a lot of the volunteer work my wife Amanda and I have done. I feel like I have an understanding of disadvantaged or poverty-stricken or even troubled kids because of not only our experience with adoption, but just a lot of the work we've done through our church. And so I felt like I was uniquely equipped to manage the challenges of not only directing a movie with kids in it, but then also handling the kids on the set. I just felt like this is something that I'm capable of. The humor in the story, very much my style of humor. The emotion in the story, the fact that it takes you through some darkness before we get to the light. Here's the beautiful thing about the Best Christmas Pageant Ever, the book and the movie. It's for everybody. You might think because it's primarily about kids that it's a kids movie. Yes, kids will love this movie, but this is as much for adults as anyone. It's very nostalgic, it's timeless. We film it in a timeless way. You as an adult will go, this reminds me of my childhood, but it also reminds me of parenting. And the fact that it's so funny and so witty means it's not just for little kids, it's not just even for middle-aged kids. This is for everyone, and I've spoken to so many people of all ages who absolutely love it and see it the same way that my wife and I did. So I loved it when I was a kid, I loved it when I was an adult, and I think that's true. That's going to be true of everyone. We really worked hard to make sure that it didn't feel like it was locked into any particular time period, so that when you watch this movie, even in 30 years, it won't feel dated or old. And we don't want that to happen now either. And so there's no specific decade that you can identify when you see the production design and costumes and dialogue of this movie. The first role that was cast was Judy Greer as Grace, the mother, the one who directs the pageant. And at the same time, we were casting all the kids. I'm seeing all these auditions. And we knew pretty early on that Molly was going to be an extraordinary Beth. We knew pretty early on that Beatrice was going to be an extraordinary Imogene. We saw that pretty quickly. I remember my wife, Amanda, who's a big part of the casting process, calls me over and says, "You've got to see this audition of Molly Wright. You've got to see this audition of Beatrice." We just saw this vulnerability and strength in both of them that we just thought would be beautiful. I think viewers are going to be blown away and fall in love with her in this movie. And the kids, the collection of kids, once we found our Beth and our Imogene, everything else started to fall into place. And the Herdmans all came perfectly into place, and Beth's family all came perfectly into place. I sometimes can't believe how fortunate we are to get this many extraordinary kids who can, who have all the moves, who can give us that humor and the emotion at their age. It's been really awesome. And when we came up with the idea of Judy Greer as the mom, I remember at first I thought, boy, Judy always plays characters, or often plays characters that are very sharp and funny, and she's oftentimes, as Judy Greer is known, as the perfect best friend. I thought, okay, what about her as a mom? And especially a timeless mom of a family here in kind of classic Americana. And we saw a clip of Judy from Ant-Man, and where she played something different than what she normally did, and we thought, great, she's got all the colors. She's going to bring a wit to this, but also a pathos to this, and she's an extraordinary actress, and it just quickly made sense. And my goodness, every day of filming with Judy is a reminder of how lucky we were to get her for this project. All of my friends and family who are huge Pete Holmes fans, all were like, oh my gosh, you got Pete Holmes? Oh my gosh, I wouldn't have thought of him for this. That's so cool, that's so interesting. Oh my gosh, it makes perfect sense. And when you see the movie, everyone will agree that maybe it's an outside the box thought, but I really wanted someone like Pete who's got that sense of humor, even though it's a more straightforward character, who's gonna understand the timing of this movie, and he's just been beautiful. Working with kids is very interesting. I will say right off the bat that we have a great group of kids. They're fantastic. But the old adage is never work with kids and animals. And I would say that's not entirely true, because I'm glad that I've been working with kids in this movie, because it has to work. Yeah, the beauty of Best Christmas Pageant Ever is that it is for everyone. You don't have to be a person of faith or a churchgoer to get it, because maybe you can identify with the Herdmans, or maybe you can identify with just people in the community. Everyone, regardless of their faith or regardless of the amount of church-going they do, has been to multiple Christmas Eve services, oftentimes goes to church on Christmas. Christmas is that time where we do remember the parts of our faith or lack thereof that relate to Christmas. So that's the beauty of this story, is that it applies to everyone. For those of us who are regular churchgoers, for whom this is a huge part of our life, for whom this story is the foundation of our faith, this movie is especially resonant for them as well. When people ask me, what is the ultimate message of Best Christmas Pageant Ever? What do you want people to remember? And it's simply this: unto you a child is born.